Well, February is a lot of things. Some people think it's the month of love, Black History Month, a host of other things we celebrate, but it's also National Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. It's an important time to discuss what's acceptable and not acceptable within teenage relationships.
Yeah, so according to recent stats, 1 in 3 U.S. teens will experience physical, sexual, or emotional abuse from someone they're in a relationship with before becoming adults. And nearly half of U.S. college women report experiencing violent or abusive dating behaviors. So joining us this morning to unpack all of this is psychotherapist and trauma specialist, Dr. Chala-Kani. So good morning to you. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning, ladies. Thank you for bringing attention to this very important topic.
Yeah, it is very important.
And I feel like it's grown, which is a sort of startling thing to have to admit. But I wonder if you could start off by just explaining what teen dating violence is.
Sure. So it is violence, whether it's physical, verbal, emotional, or sexual in nature. And I think what a lot of people are surprised to hear is that it's also inclusive of stalking. And stalking isn't the stalking from years ago where you're spying on someone on their house. It's also when you're receiving unwanted text messages, social media contact, and a lot of people don't think of it that way. But staggering statistics are that children between the ages of 11 and 14, so these are middle schoolers, that about 15% of them will have been stalked by the time they get to high school.
Yeah, and I think that's an important note to make, is that this kind of violence is not just physical.
That's right.
Right?
And a lot of people just categorize abuse as physical, hitting, punching, kicking, pushing, hands-on. But the verbal piece, the emotional piece, the stalking, you know, the more intangible things, they make a lot of impact on people as well.
So for the adults who are these are either our children or our nieces or nephews, what are some signs that we should look out for on both sides?
Yeah.
Hazel has girls, I have boys.
That's right. I have both.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what should we be looking for?
So you should be looking, first of all, healthy relationships, have good communication, healthy boundaries. So when we're seeing maybe boundaries are being overstepped, someone's checking phones or breaking into social media accounts to see what they're doing, that's a red flag. When there's fear, when someone's feeling insecure, when their partner's very jealous or possessive or wants to exclude them and only be with them and not their friends, those are things to look out for, because adolescents, you know, those forming brains, they're very impressionable, and the emotions that they feel are so intense. So when someone is pouring so much attention on you, it can feel really good, but it doesn't mean it's healthy.
Yeah, and it's scary to hear what some kids think is acceptable, you know, in relationships, especially when they're very young, because sometimes they'll just say, oh, well, we were just messing around, or it was just horseplay. So how do you talk to your kids about, well, no, it's a little bit more than that?
Sure. And I think, you know, we're all familiar now with the term gaslighting.
Sure.
Yes.
And it's, you know, it's these subtle things where you feel something and you know it's real, and that person is dismissive, or I didn't say that, or
I was just kidding.
Or you're imagining it. You know, that's gaslighting. That's, you know, invalidating someone's feelings. And when we are invalidated or made to feel small, it makes us have explosive reactions and get bigger. And that's something to look for too. If your teen is in a relationship and there's a lot of breaking up and fighting and a lot of intense emotions, I mean, anything healthy should be steady. Right, and balanced. So we should be looking for that when we're observing these teen relationships.
And so how do we intervene? Because I'm thinking of, you know, my 15-year-old, he thinks he knows the way of the world. Last thing he wants to hear is, you know, well, you should, or perhaps we can reevaluate, or you know what. Because this is a real thing. In our meeting, I know 3 women who were abused as teenagers.
Sure.
And they've gone on to become motivational speakers, but this was the 90s. No one talked about it.
No one. And your statistic is right. Most women start college with more than, almost half, being in an abusive relationship, which is really frightening. But the thing about the dialogue is, you just said, you should.
Right.
Starting with that, we don't want to start with you. It creates defensiveness. And, we have a saying in therapy, you shouldn't should on yourself, So starting with I.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but notice, or I was wondering how things are going in the relationship, just kind of approaching it with a little bit of observation and curiosity, just so that your teen knows that you're looking, but it's not critical.
Yeah. I think the bottom line is, like, when I talk to my daughters, I always talk to them about respecting themselves. Like, you deserve better than this.
Yes.
You should expect people to treat you better than how you're being treated. Respect really is key, isn't it?
It is. And I feel that if children are raised to feel respected and loved unconditionally, that puts them out into the world with better boundaries and having more value, where they're not gonna maybe accept that from someone, and they might question it before receiving it. But it is scary. I mean, the statistics are staggering, and it really sets our youth up for issues in the long run, creating an unhealthy foundation for intimate relationships. And the key goal of adolescence is to establish your identity, to decide who you are in this world. And it really can interfere with that process of who your self is, that self-identity, if someone is putting you down or telling you you're less than.
Yeah. This is a vast topic. We could talk to you for a long
Yes,
time. I hope you will come back.
Sure.
Thank you so much. And by the way,
pleasure.
there is hope. If you or anyone you know is experiencing domestic violence, call that number on the screen or text START to 88788.